Namaskar to everyone. Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. This is Sachin here. We're continuing our exploration of the various yogas and different ideas in the Sanatana Dharma. Obviously, it is an ocean that has no limit to it, but ultimately, in some form or another, our own experience and development is what we're seeking. So for example, I'm talking right now or presenting this or doing the satsang. Who is it for? It is for my own development and for sharing with the world. There is so much to be said that there is no end to it actually. But that's the beauty, because when we are examining truth, exploring who we are and the nature of the reality within and outside, it is an ongoing opening that continues further and further into the highest of realizations. So to continue our exposition on the Navaratna Malika, this is the 9 forms of devotion as we have been continuing to talk about. Certainly, these are extraordinary. Yesterday I kind of ended with just a summary of them, what they are. In life, we are looking for happiness, joy, everyone is. And the objects of the senses, as I was mentioning yesterday, they do provide a certain experience. When we like something, that can be enhanced further, and many people try to expand it further. That can happen also on the devotional side with these 9 forms. If we get absorbed in, let's say, bhajan, kirtan, the second part, shravanam, kirtanam, Vishnuhu, Smaranam, Padasevanam. So we can get into bhajan kirtan. You get a high from that also. It's a natural high. It's good, nothing really wrong in that. But it is nonetheless a psychological phenomenon. So repeating a bhajan, kirtan, for some time we can do it. But we cannot do it beyond a certain point. Because the mind then is just, it gets stuck in that repetition, and that doesn't benefit the mind, doesn't benefit us. So these 9 forms of devotion are to be shifted from one to the other, and in shifting them, as we shift them, our emotional system begins to move into a state of rasa, R-A-S-A, rasa. So what is ras? The word ras can mean juice, sap, essence. It can mean different kinds of experience that is available. So in the devotional experience to God, there is the rasa of devotion. So for example, just take for example the Namah Shivaya mantra, Om Namah Shivaya. Now, there are perhaps thousands of videos on this mantra just on YouTube, and not to mention the sadhana that is done throughout the world on this mantra. When the mantra is spoken in a bhajan form or in a kirtan form, depending on the understanding of who is Shiva and depending on the feeling inside for the Shiv Lingam or the image of Shiva, depending on that understanding and the bhav inside, the act of chanting the mantra is going to create that much amount of rasa, or open up the rasa from within. So I want to explain this a little bit further now as to what happens within. There is actually nectar within our system. This is called amrut. The amrut is the life-giving or the immortal juice, essentially. That is called the amrit. So the nectar is within us. Now that nectar that is within us can open through the 9 forms of devotion. And let's just take for example the Namah Shivaya mantra. It is done as a meditation, it is done as a kirtan. At some point, if the connection with the divine, with Bhagwan Shiv is intense, there is a real faith in the murti, in the image or in the lingam, or Sadguru who is embodying Shiva. If there is that kind of shraddha, real faith of the presence, that presence is there, then that allows the emotions to shift dimensionally. Again, these explanations are not going to be adequate. Explanation is only the beginning of the process, and I will do the best I can, based on whatever I have understood over the years, to try to explain this. Explanation is good. We need to have explanation to some extent. Much more relevant is anubhav, the experience of it. But nonetheless, if you go step by step, if there is an image of Shiva, sitting in the yogic form in the Himalaya, we've seen thousands of such pictures of Bhagwan Shiv. And the same thing is true for any of the other pantheon, the gods in the Hindu pantheon. If we see an image, what is it actually? Is it just a painting? So let's start with how this bhakti opens up. Is it just a painting? Is it just an idea, something imaginary, something fake, something tradition has developed, something that is a projection, something that somebody else has created, some artistic thing that somebody's worshipping? Is that what it is? Well, keep in mind, there could be that aspect, and there probably is some of that. But nonetheless, if you were to take, for example, a $100 bill, what is it actually? US, the new $100 bills with the Benjamin Franklin face. What is that? Well, it's a piece of paper. It's a special type of piece of paper with all kinds of printing on there, there's like a strip on there also, some kind of a magnetic strip or something is on there. In that sense, it's just a piece of paper with some printing. Now, if you give that $100 bill to a 1-year-old child, or even a 2-year or maybe 3-year-old child, even up to age 3 maybe, they don't know anything about what that $100 bill is. It's just a piece of paper. They'll play it, make it into a ball, throw it, maybe put it in their mouth, something like that. There's no understanding of that. Similarly, when you have an image of Bhagwan Shiv, people who don't have any understanding of who Shiva or Tattva or Shiva Tattva or any of the background behind any of it at all, it is like the 1-year-old or the 2-year-old with the $100 bill. There's zero understanding of it. It just looks like a painting, that's all. Because it is a painting, first of all. But as that child grows up, the understanding of what is money comes about, and at some point, maybe at age 7 or 8, or at some point, I don't know when exactly, there's that sense, oh my God, this is power. This $100 bill has thousands of chocolate candies within it. It has it can buy so much. It has so much power behind it. Because that is the accepted way that goods and products are exchanged. But again, the image of Shiva has meaning, or any Shiva, Krishna, whatever, Jesus, doesn't matter, has meaning only to the extent that you are giving it meaning and that you understand what it means for you. Now, there is an exception to this idea. There are plenty of stories and examples and incidences where these images have become alive and have given things to people and things like that. That is a different subject. I don't want to go into that right now, some other time. But for logical reasoning and purposes, we are giving certain significance to the image. So if I take this mala, and I say Namah Shivaya as we do every day, we do the 108 times Namah Shivaya, what is the understanding, feeling and bhav through which this mantra is chanted? And then the relationship that is cultivated with the Ishta Devata. So if someone's Ishta Devata is Bhagwan Shiv, there's a relationship cultivated with the chosen deity. So in the Hindu tradition, Sanatana Dharma tradition, in the Bhakti traditions particularly, there is this whole notion of Ishta Devata. Ishta means that form of God that is pleasing and that is most attractive to you. For somebody it could be Shiva, somebody it could be Krishna, somebody is Ganesha, somebody it is just the Omkar, which is not really a Devata in that sense, it is just the consciousness. Whatever. For someone it is a particular Guru Parampara. All of those things are part of this notion of Ishta Devata. Ishta Devata means that which is that form that is most attractive to the individual. Now, how does that happen? If you were to look at children and as they're growing up, they're exposed, let's say, to temples. They go to temples, they go to different rituals and all these things. But beyond that is for the parents and kids to sit down and say, what form of God do you like? What is the meaning of that form of God? What is the history behind it? Once there is the proper study of the history of that particular deity, that particular image, then what happens inside is that there is mahima, there is the mahatma, the glory of that. And once the glory of it comes about, and same thing is true in Christianity, for example, the glory of God talked about all the time. Once the glory comes about, then the devotional practice can begin. See, if someone is looking at Shiva as an object of mythological study, or some scholar is studying Shiva, that's a different matter, as I mentioned before. But who is a devotee? The bhakta is one, it is for the devotee or somebody who wants to be a devotee. That is where the Navadha Bhakti, the Navaratna Malika, is of significance and of primary significance. One who is not a devotee is just an intellectual exercise or some study or going to a museum or something. We go to museums, we don't have any devotion to anybody over there. But is a temple also just a museum? For many it could be, but for those who are devotees, it is not the case. And that's the whole point. When there is devotion towards Shiva through an understanding of who he is, understanding of the glory and the history and the power of the mantras and all that, the Rudram and Chamakam and all the other thousands of other mantras are present and bhajans are there. Once we recognize what is the glory of Lord Shiva, as an example, Bhagwan Shiva, then with that realization of the glory, the 9 forms of devotion occur. Any one or any of these can occur. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, all of them. They occur as a bhav towards Paramatma, and not just as a mythological object or some historical being. It's more than that. Now, when that bhav opens up, that is where the rasa comes. Now, you see this point, it's very interesting. The rasa is what we are seeking actually in bhakti. It's called bhakti ras. There's a tremendous scripture called Bhakti Rasamrut Sindhu. This is in the ISKCON tradition, and it is actually in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Guru Parampara. One of the gurus has written this, one of the Goswamis has written this. Bhakti Rasamrut Sindhu. It is the rasa that opens up. You see, and we have experience of rasa. I'm going to give you a couple of examples just to highlight the point, which we already know. We know the food example very well. We like certain foods. But remember, even to like and enjoy certain food is based on state of mind, an overall circumstance in life, an overall health. To that extent, even eating something like khichdi, kadhi, or some very simple dish, made out of rice or chapati or whatever, even the most simple dish may give the tremendous rasa based on overall circumstances in life and state of mind and state of well-being, state of family, state of finance, state of health, state of overall a sense of I'm all right. So even the Vishaya rasa, from the enjoyment from the senses, like music, listening to music, classical music, all such things are based on state of mind, and I would even go further, based on the integrated energetic system within the mind. And it is on that basis that the sense objects can be enjoyed to the maximum using the minimum amount of material. Minimum quantity with maximum enjoyment is a form of highest rasa in the sense objects based on the state of mind and the development of the mind. So I hope this is clear. Now we will go into dialogue on this hopefully in the future sometime. It's very interesting. Now if you take this further, take the example again of Bhagwan Shiv, someone who is a devotee of Shiva, has become a devotee or wants to be more connected with the Shiva Tattva, starts chanting Namah Shivaya mantra, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, does bhajan, kirtan, rudram, abhishekam, so many different things are done. Now what happens? By doing that sadhana of Shiva, the internal energetic system and the psycho-emotive system, the cognitive and emotive system within the brain and the mind, it begins to awaken the amrit, the nectarine happiness from inside. You will see any image of Mirabai. She is just lost in Krishna. You don't see her teaching somebody, you don't see her reading Srimad Bhagavatam, you don't see her she may have done those things. But whenever we think of Meera, she is lost in Krishna, she's lost in the love of God. That is called Amrut. That is the internal nectar that opens up. And that is the word rasa. Believe it or not, in actual Sanskrit language, and I have looked this up actually, there really isn't an exact translation for the word emotion. In the Sanskrit language, the following words are present. They are Vedana. The word Vedana is one word that means feeling. Another word is Bhava. Another word is Raga. Another word is Dvesha. Another word is Harsha, which is joy. Another word is Bhaya. Another word is Shoka. So for the one word emotion in English, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different words that are talking about different ways that we consider emotion. We just use emotion as a generic term in English, but there isn't an exact, as far as I know, there is not an exact generic term like that for emotion in the Sanskrit language. You see, now, it depends. And it really has to do with being more precise about what we are talking about. See the word Vedana. What does that mean? It means certain type of feeling. Certain kind of feeling is expressed there. Bhava. So what is bhav? What is the difference between bhav and rag? These are some interesting subtle differences. Raga, it can be love or attraction, but bhava can be a very positive bhav or a negative bhav. It can be shuddha bhav, it can be divya bhav, it can be asuri bhav. The growth and anger and greed, and this is also a type of bhava. But it is the internal way that the emotion is actually moving within the system that is discussed here. And what we are aiming towards, those who are interested in bhakti particularly, are interested in taking all of these, whether it is Vedana, Bhava, Raga, Dvesha, Harsha, Bhaya, Shoka, whatever language we want to use, taking all of that aspect of emotion and opening the nectarine Amrut, the life-giving Amrut, that is that rasa, that Amrut rasa, that Bhakti rasa Amrut, that opens up. And that nectarine joy is so powerful, it is so fantastic that is a grace of God. Bhagwan ki, we can say that is a grace of God. That's a theistic way of thinking about it. It is a grace because it is connecting, with whomever we are connecting, that is the bhava that is going to come. If we are connecting with Shiva, whoever Shiva is and whatever the power is in the Namah Shivaya mantra, and the other mantras and the teachings and the scriptures and everything else as per Shiva, that is what is going to come inside of us. So whatever we are connected with, whatever sangha we have, that is what the ranga is. Sangha and ranga. Two things are there. Whatever we are connected with is called sangha, and particularly the mental absorption in. Then the mind gets the coloring of that. That is called ranga. So the sangha and the ranga are interconnected this way. Now, if someone, let's say, for example, is very much interested in drinking a lot of alcohol, that's just an example. Not socially, but like really intense behind it, and playing card games with some groups of friends and all that. So that whole environment and the experience of that will color the mind. So the mind becomes ranga. It becomes absorbed with that experience. So, and this is just true with anything. I mean, it doesn't make any difference what it is. It's true with everything in life. Whatever sangha we have, that is the ranga we will have. So if someone is saying, I just want to be in a church and I just want to be connected with Jesus and be in it, like so many Pentecostals, and there's so many different denominations in Christianity. So again, there are also these intensely devotional strands in Christianity. And from my research and study, they're trying to do the same thing, and that is to open up the rasa. The Sufis also in the Islam tradition open up the rasa. The rasa is everything, bhakti ras. So when bhakti ras begins to open up, what it does now, in the nine forms of devotion, open this ecstasy. So this is another way to think, a natural ecstasy opens up, and it has to do with overall context of one's life. Body should be healthy, family should be in good place, there should be enough money saved, there should be good wellness all the way around, proper diet, good environment, good company with others, no pollution, no air pollution, water pollution, no noise pollution. All of these external circumstances, if they are beneficial, then that is going to promote bhakti rasa. Again in Vachanamrutam, Swami Sajananji Maharaj, he has talked about these in this way. He has talked about these beneficial and maleficent circumstances. He says there is Desh, Kal, Kriya, Sang, Mantra, Shastra, Diksha, Dhyan. There are 8 of these. So Desh, Kal, Kriya, Sang, Mantra, Shastra, Diksha and Dhyan. I won't go into all of them right now, but these 8 can be beneficial for the development of spiritual realization. And they also can turn the other way, and they can destroy realization or they can prevent realization. So for example, if I'm trying to do Namah Shivaya mantra and there's a lot of noise pollution outside, cars are honking and people are coming and going, I don't have even 5 minutes of silence, whether in the house or outside. How is that going to promote? In fact, it will not promote devotion. It will distract me from my devotional practice. So the external circumstances, these 8 particularly, Desh, Kal, Kriya, Sang, Mantra, Shastra, Diksha, Dhyan, all of these 8, we want to put ourselves in a situation where they are assisting us and not contrary to what we are trying to achieve. And because people necessarily don't have all of those 8, or they don't take the time to create those circumstances, what winds up happening, they may do some bhakti, some puja, some archana, some ritual, some this, that, XYZ, that's all. And then swing back right into the vortex of the sansar. And usually it's getting stuck in the sansar, as opposed to being, that state of awareness and all that. We're not talking about that right now. People who are just stuck in the sansar, running after kam, krodh, lobh, and the back and forth pulling all the time that is going on. Continuously it is there. In the entire sansar, this is all that is going on. It is the pulling back and forth. Once somebody's trying to dominate somebody else, and somebody's trying to get something from somebody else, and all. This is how the sansar is based, unfortunately. That's what it is. And then there's those who are trying to do other than that. They want to do, good service to the world and have other ways of serving the world. That's a different matter. But most of what goes on in the sansar is not bhakti, it is asakti. So the word asakti, and maybe that's a Gujarati word, I don't know if it's a Sanskrit word or not, but it just simply means that one is so immersed inside the activity of the sansar that the bhakti ras doesn't open up. In fact, one only runs towards the Vishaya rasa. And that Vishaya rasa, one is not able to experience the maximum amount of it with the minimum quantity. In fact, they want more and more quantity because there's diminishing return. More and more quantity is required, and there's more tolerance effect. Basically, the more and more quantity doesn't produce that much happiness as one might think. Very simple example, if you have a $200 bed, it produces a certain comfort. Maybe an $800 bed will produce a little bit more comfort. But if you have $1 million bed, it doesn't mean it's going to produce 1,000,000 times more happiness. It's all state of mind. There's a certain comfort level, and then beyond that, it's just all state of mind. So it's not about the quantity of the material outside, it's the quality of the rasa inside. So the beauty of bhakti is that it allows actually one to enjoy the material world within a certain range, taking the maximum benefit from the material world without damaging the system inside of us. That is the tremendous technology of the 9 forms of devotion. It is a massive psycho-spiritual technology. And if this is understood this way, if masses of people understood this thing, good Lord, they would be, life would transform tremendously. Because there is a realization that there is nectar within our system. We don't know how to open it, but this is how. So it can open, it does open, there is quite a bit to be said about it, but the opening of it is the key. And one more point I just want to mention before we finish our satsang today, that the intellectual capacity, that is called Vijnan So the word cognition in Sanskrit sometimes is translated as jnana or vijnana or as buddhi even. But it is something that is very interesting because the proper connection between the intellect and the emotion, the emotional system, the bhavas, the rasa, and the intellect. That's really the connection between bhakti and Vedanta, and Advaita Vedanta, in reality. If you really were to pull together the bhakti sampradayas and the Vedantic Advaitic sampradayas, you would find that it is actually a connection between the intellect and the emotional system. And once they come together, once they integrate together, then there is a beautiful marriage that occurs. So that jnana is supported by bhakti, bhakti is supported by jnana. And that is where then, in such a state, a doorway then opens up into the Atmic realization, Atma and Paramatma. Those realizations, they occur afterwards. So that's enough on this at this point right now. There's so much to be said. We'll continue next time on this.